Hi, welcome to Finding the Word. I'm Melanie Brown, and this is Tia Stewart. We're back. We are going to do part 2 together. This is a word that we had also through conversation, and a really neat story that I'm excited that Tia is going to share about the Lord and what we have to say about that. The word is meet. And this is where we're going to talk about even how we met. And the Lord has divine appointments for us. He always has us meet with people. But sometimes I think we take too lightly these meetings. He has intentions for them. As we're going about daily life, we're always meeting people. There's always someone along the path. And we have to be listening for the Spirit and intentional in these meetings, because they are specific and they're not always temporary or right then and there. You can feel in your spirit when someone is going to be a part of your life. A lot of times we have to understand when we do meet people that they are meeting the Lord through us, or that we are bringing Christ to them through us. It's always intentional. It's always on purpose. It's always something that we pay attention to and focus on how we're presenting ourselves, because it's God within us when we meet people that they are seeing, and it should be a light. It should be the Lord that they're meeting. So we met in 2000. It was 2000. I think it was, we're thinking it was right before I either found out I was pregnant with Marlon, or maybe had just, or maybe not yet, because he was born January 2001.
Okay.
So I don't know, it had to be.
You probably were pregnant then, because I feel like it was either May or June.
Okay.
So you were probably.
So I was pregnant with him, and then early on. Okay, that makes sense. And so then we met then, and I had the 2 boys. You had 4, and so I was going on the 3rd. So we had, but it was a divine appointment. So we know that us meeting there was God bringing us to this park that day. I learned about homeschooling, something I didn't even know existed until I met you. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember
but
that.
I can't remember how old was Elijah then.
He was 6.
And I remember saying something about, it was like, oh, he's in school or not in school, something like that. But you told me about homeschooling, and I remember thinking, homeschooling? What is that? What? Like, and you explained, and I was like, no way, so you can teach your children. And now that it's been this many years, I mean, it sounds crazy to be laughing about it now, but at that time, it was brand new, and you had introduced me to the fact that I could go to groups and talk about places to go, and it was all very, very important, everything. And over the years, it's been very important. It's such a blessing. And you can't even imagine at the time sometimes you do meet what that will entail.
Yeah.
But God shows us all the time. I mean, if you look at just our relationships, our spouses, all of it, He is working all the time in our friendships for who we meet. And it's a very special, to me, gifting that He gives to us when we have friendships and meet. It's such a special gifting. So you had talked about, and this is what made it like, we talk about how we met, and then we talk about meeting in general, but there was a story that you had shared about a special meeting that you had and God allowing you to meet someone. So just go ahead and giving you the opportunity to share that story.
Okay. Well, before I share that, I want to see if you remember this.
Okay.
Okay. So we had conversation about, you were asking me, I had 4 children, I had my little cousin with me, so it looked like I had 5. And you started asking me about our family size. And I told you that we're letting the Lord, have control of our womb. And I remember you being like, what? Like, what did you say?
I am not surprised.
You're like, what is that?
I am not, because I didn't know anything about that.
What are you talking about here?
I had the idea.
And I told you there was a magazine at the time.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Above Rubies?
Above Rubies. Yes.
Wow.
And I said there's a magazine that is encouragement for large families. And I said it's a free magazine if you want to get it. And I kind of told you about it. And I think you were getting it. And I don't think I was getting it anymore.
Well, because I didn't end up getting that magazine, I don't think.
Okay.
Until, fast forward, it came back around. This was important. Now I'm like, okay, we are veering off of this meeting. And there's more meetup when I think about it from that, because I got to number 4 and was pregnant with number 5. So Marlena was 2. This is piggybacking on many mothers of many. I only had 4, but it was, and I think we thought we were done, but I don't know, but the thing was, I had all these different ideas. So it was, well, if I have a girl in number 4, I have to have another girl because I have a sister, and I can't have one girl and she doesn't have a sister, which means I'd have to try again. Well, of course, number 4 was a girl. So I had 3 boys and the girl, and I thought, oh, well, I got to get a sister. So I was kind of going on with it. I don't know, it was fine. Oh, they hadn't even told me he wanted 10 at that point. I had no idea. But it's funny that you're saying that part, because fast forward, it was back again. And I do remember, I think, when Leah said, there's this conference coming up. It's for families, and it's called Above Rubies. That I was like, you know, I am sure that my other friend Tia told me about this. I'm pretty positive. And so she was like, yes, these magazines are free. You can subscribe. So I got the magazines coming. We went to the conference, and I was pregnant with the 5th, had Marlena go to the conference, and I meet her. Okay, so this is another meeting that was very instrumental, because there was Miss Nancy and her daughters, and this was before Trim Healthy Mama. They became these people doing all of that. It was not then back then. It was just they were moms, and they had all their little ones. And these women there, happened to come to the rooms of the 2 people with the most children at that conference. Other people had just a few kids, but these women had 9. One of them had 9, one of them had 11 or 12. My mouth hit the floor. I did not realize people had that many children. So that's why I have some grace and mercy when people do me, like, because I was just like, what? You have what? No, you don't. And they're like, yes, we do, and stuff. And so they are the ones that said to me, don't feel strange or uncomfortable because people are staring at you. Because at that point was the beginning of the stares, I think, and the, why are you having more? You got a girl. What are you doing? And I was like, well, we're having a family. We're having a family. I hope to get another girl. But it was odd, and people began to find it strange, I guess. And so I was, because of that aversion of people's negative, feelings or how they're coming off, I started taking that on, and it began to make me feel uncomfortable, like I wasn't allowed almost to have more, even if we wanted them. But these ladies, they were like, well, you should be proud of your family. This is what you and your husband are wanting. This is what you're doing. Just because they don't want that, it doesn't mean you should be. These are gifts. God is giving you gifts, and you should be proud of them. And that was not a perspective that anyone had ever shared. Not from that. We talked about having the children, like it was just like, well, I'm gonna let the Lord do what he wants to do. But it wasn't necessarily like this, these are gifts, like for real. You embrace them with excitement or whatever. That wasn't the part that I really felt like I got. And it's something clicked with it then. And the way that we can win, it was just such a pleasant time. And that was a meeting that was important. So now that you're saying it, but I'm saying up until now, I don't think I realized that you were the first person to say something about the Above Rubies. I had forgotten.
I was actually kind of, any time I met women, I was introducing this idea. And I actually didn't, the Above Rubies, somebody told me about that, but I wasn't getting the magazine myself.
Oh.
I think somebody maybe gave me one copy, but
me too,
I didn't really, but I would like say there's this magazine, this, that, and the third. And I didn't even really know anybody with large families. I can't think of one. When I was like evangelizing, like I didn't even know anybody. I was just like, I'm about to make my own group. if I start talking to all these women, they'll have children too. And, I don't know.
I remember meeting this lady and embarrassing myself one time because it is so crazy to me now. But this makes me laugh when I think about it. But I met her, we were at the Y or somewhere, but she had 6.
Okay.
She had 6 kids. And I had the 2 or the 3, but I was like, what? This is so sad to me when I think about it, but I said, where do they all sit and stuff? She said, what? I was serious. Where do they sleep and sit and do things? Like, where are they all at? Like, just around, But she was just like, yes. I mean, I don't know what, but for some reason at that time, it was like, to me, 6 children just living there. Now, I had a home daycare program, but we had a little table, we had this and that. They were home. So I was imagining, them just around. It sounds crazy to me now, but at that point, because I was young and just hadn't had a couple of kids and stuff myself, it just felt like a whole lot of children. And I just remember thinking I couldn't understand how they were maneuvering through the house.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, okay, you have a story of how this meeting that the Lord orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're sharing on that. So.
Yeah, sure. I'll share that with you. So I do a lot of work with in my community, food work and food systems work. And so that means I have a lot of responsibility. And so that means I have a lot of paperwork. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, I had a bunch of, I was backed up. I had a bunch of paperwork. And it was really getting to be like concerning for me. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get through this. And so it was like the Holy Spirit said, put some music on like David. So when David played his harp to soothe, so I was looking for some kind of soothing music, and there's always YouTube. And I also like independent artists. So I'm like, okay, let me try that. I'm going to look for some soothing music. Mm-hmm. So I went in, I put in like Hebrew harp soothing music. And this artist popped up. His name is Prince David. And I'm like, okay, well, let me see what this is. I pushed play, on one of his videos. And it was just like harp. And he was also singing and saying encouraging words. And I'm like, wow, this is really encouraging. And so I would put this music on and I would get in my zone. And anytime I had anything important to finish, like any important paperwork, or if I had to develop curriculum or anything that would seem like it was going to be like something that would take me a long time and bog me down, then I would go and I would play specifically his Shemba melody. And I can just remember, like 2-3 years in, thinking, in the midst of this hard time, this hard work I have to do, when I finish it, I was just thinking like, this young man all the way in another country, he will never know how much, the Lord has used him to help me, through these hard times that I had. You just will never know this. And I can remember saying out loud this very thing multiple times when when I had gotten through some hard work, some paperwork, my taxes or whatever. It was this past summer, 2025. And as I said, we do a lot of farm education, my husband and I. And we had a market. It was a Wednesday night. There's a market from 3 to 7. There was also a incubation class. So we also help with some incubation farming. And it was getting late. I was tired. My husband was tired. And we were debating on whether or not to go to the incubation class to help with the class. And I'm like, you know what? They usually don't let out until about 8:30. It's almost 7 now. If we hurry up and get all of our things packed up, we could probably get over there, and there'll probably still be like an hour of the class left. And if anybody has any questions, or if they want to just chat farming, we'll be there to be supportive. So we decided to go on, and when we arrived, I entered the room. A lot of times I would help with, making sure that the sign-in sheet was complete, everybody signed in, or, like I said, if they had questions or what have you, we would be there to answer. So we got to the space, and I'm looking around. This class was a brand new set of students. I knew a few people, but there were also some people I didn't know in the room. And I remember looking over at, across the room, and I look over and I'm like, wow, that young man over there kind of looks like Prince David. I wasn't, I hadn't seen him. Sometimes you can't really see him on his video. So I'm like, he just kind of looks like him. But anyway, where they were almost finished with the classroom portion of the lesson. And then they were going to go out into the field for the field portion. And so it was just like a fleeting thought. And then it was time for them to go on out into the greenhouse. And so I grabbed the sign-in sheet so that I could, make sure that everybody signed in. And I walked into the greenhouse, and I'm going down the sign-in sheet, reading names. And I get close to the bottom, and it says Prince David. And I'm like,
no way.
No
right.
way. And so I'm like, excuse me, young man. I'm like, "Are you an artist?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am." And I said, "Are you a Hebrew?" He said, "Yes, ma'am." I'm like, "Oh my goodness, you cannot be serious." I'm like, "Come over here, come over here." Everybody in the class was like, all trying to figure out like what's going on.
Yeah.
But I like literally had to pull him to the side and tell him about how the Most High had been using him all this time. And he actually was really encouraged, because he told me that he was kind of had been stuck and not posting, like, you know, he felt like the Holy Spirit, the Rock was leading him. And so this was actually an encouragement for him to, you know, like, people are out there being encouraged by my music, and keep going, keep moving forward. So, but yeah, to me, it's like the Most High said, "Don't you tell me who won't know what."
Wow. That's
You know, I'm sitting here repeating every other time about, he'll never know, you know, I'll never, why would I?
I'll never
why would I meet
Yes.
him? I don't go anywhere but farming
Isn't
places
that
anyway. He's a
something?
musician. I don't go anywhere.
And he was
So,
from the
Dayton.
same
I
area
had
that
no
you're from.
clue. Yeah. And
I think he's in a
actually,
different country.
well, actually, when he had recorded that particular video,
Okay.
he was outside of the country.
Oh.
So yeah, he's a Daytonian, but he wasn't in Dayton at that time.
Wow.
So I didn't even realize that he was from the area at all.
Amazing.
So it was amazing, yeah.
It really is. I just love that, because
Divine
it was
meetings.
just such a divine meeting.
Yes.
And it made a point, and it had such a great purpose too. And then it touched on, I felt like, how we can have these perceptions, you know, that aren't accurate, and we can be discouraged by things going on, and make the mistake of listening to the enemy about things we're doing. I know I have guilty of that. Just whatever it is, whether it's giving the word or anything he's asking me to do and share with others, just like he was doing. We get caught up sometimes in our own ideas about it, feeling like it doesn't matter, we're not making a difference, nobody cares, or whatever we think, to be discouraged. And then it feels like God literally just brought you there and had you meet, to make the point for you to know that you can meet. He can line up things in a way we could never do ourselves. And then be able to say, I want you to be encouraged and know the difference you're making in this person's life. And I want you to know that I can have you meet anyone.
That's right.
And never say what I will not do or what will not happen.
Right.
And that's encouraging to me right now, both of those things. I thought that was very special, and that we, you know, just another reason that we have to always pay attention. And when we meet people, I feel like the Spirit's saying right now for it to be, you know, to say this part, that it's like, we have to be very careful to encourage them, to lift them up, to allow the Lord to use us when we meet one another. Even those that almost seem like they're abrasive in some way. You ever, like, sometimes people are just kind of, you don't even want it. You're like, you get to me and you're like, really the way they are. But almost even more so in those cases, the light is needed and the love of God is needed. And we have to remember that when we're meeting them, just to share the love of God in every opportunity we can. Now, the cool part was that, like I was saying on the previous video, 1 Corinthians 11 is where we were. We're talking about communion and breaking the bread and the blood of Christ. But it goes on after that, where, and I'll pick back up where we left off, 1 Corinthians 11:30. The word meat is in 1 Corinthians 11:34. So I'll start reading from 30 where we ended yesterday, just to pick back up. That is why many of you are weak and sick, and some have even died. But if we would examine ourselves, we would not be judged by God in this way. Yet, when we are judged by the Lord, we are being disciplined so that we will not be condemned along with the world. So, my dear brothers and sisters, when you gather for the Lord's Supper, wait for each other. If you are really hungry, eat at home so that you won't bring judgment upon yourselves when you meet together. I'll give you instructions about the other matters after I arrive. This part was, it just gave me pause. I was like, I don't think we're doing communion correctly, because it's definitely discussing communion. You know, we do communion in the church. I'm getting the picture there was some food.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
don't
getting
think.
the
Yeah,
picture?
I think we
There was
have
some
done a lot
hunger.
of shortcuts in the church fellowship. They've been making. There's a lot of shortcuts going
I'm
on.
feeling this.
I'm not not trying to
was
step on
like,
any toes.
we have reduced this supper down. And communion is a small little
Just a
cracker
little-
and drink.
little
Just a little, this is
just a
remembrance,
little
just a
sip.
little, but it sounds like we're really supposed to be sitting in enjoyment in a real supper and doing this to
communing.
remember. There is not a communing around communion anymore. I don't believe.
know, yeah.
Am I tripping?
No, I think
Okay,
you're
because this is referring to a supper. This is referring to being hungry. But if you have to wait for each other, but if you're really hungry, eat at home. This is just so you're not starving. But if they're normally coming hungry, it says if you're really hungry, so if you really need to eat something. So they're coming eating. This was a supper. This is a deal. And maybe this is part of why it's being taken so lightly.
I mean, well, first of all, where does it say we eat the cracker?
Oh.
And I will say some church fellowships do serve bread still. Like some,
Okay.
they literally will be with bread and wine. Real
Yeah.
wine.
And this is me, just honesty. I felt like communion was something separate than the Lord's Supper.
I don't think so. Yeah, I
No,
didn't-
but I don't know why. I guess in
Yeah,
my
I didn't-
mind, it didn't feel
I
like any
think
kind
it's
of
just
supper. So,
different church fellowships, what they call it.
okay.
Because I was familiar with church fellowships calling it the Lord's Supper. Call it communion the
Communion?
Lord's Supper. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's
Okay.
just probably
Okay.
denomination or not,
Okay,
you know,
that makes
depending on the
sense.
denomination,
The name
what
of
they
it,
call.
more
Yeah.
specifically. But it is definitely referring to this as a meal. Doing so and having, of course, as we were speaking of with the last word, this honoring of Christ in taking communion needs to be done with a righteous mindset, with a holy mindset, being very careful to examine ourselves so that we are not judged by the Lord or bringing judgment upon ourselves in taking communion when we are not in the right place, in the right posture. So, and I really want to mention just real quickly that being judged by the Lord here says that we are being disciplined so that we will not be condemned along with the world. That we want to be disciplined by the Lord. If there's a need for us to be corrected in whatever area, we need to be welcoming that. This is a positive thing. We want to get correct. We want to be right. Anything else you want to add?
I think you said it well.
Okay. All right. Well, that is the end of this where we're wrapping up. It has been such a fun time. Nice break and a getaway. And so I should hopefully not be another
Oh no, we can't
13
do
years.
No, no.
You will hopefully be able to do something sooner. It's
That's
hard
right.
with
It's
all the stuff
hard
we have
in
going
the distance. In the
on.
distance,
It is. We don't get back to Ohio nearly as much, even though we try and we say that we're going to do so. I think that's probably what needs to happen.
Yeah.
We need to try to make a trip back up that way. And even the family, you say the same. It's like we're going to try to get to Florida.
Right, yeah,
Life.
yeah.
All this stuff going on, and it can become very difficult. But a reminder that as we meet others, that we need to be careful to bring the light of the Lord into our meetings, and also to thank Him for the blessing of those that He has with us in our divine appointments, those that He brings us together to meet, and the impact in our lives. Thank you for your friendship and the impact that you've had in mine. I do appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you too.
Yes. Don't forget to find the word. I will see you soon.